The CE blames filibustering at LegCo for the failure to set up a culture bureau. Public hospital charges go up. And in Japan, missing sailors found dead in flooded compartments of a US destroyer following a ship collision.
Hello and a very good evening. With his term of office coming to an end in just less than 2 weeks, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying today listed out his administration's achievements in an interview with mainland media. But he also talked about his failure to set up a culture bureau in the government. Caleb Long has our top story tonight.
Leung Chun-ying outlined 4 major policy areas in which he believes his administration has made great strides: housing, poverty alleviation, support for the elderly, and environmental protection. He noted that during his time in office, the government has increased housing supply by opening up more land for development through the rezoning of sites. A total of 96,000 private housing units will be completed over the next 3 to 4 years. In the areas of social welfare and poverty alleviation, Leung said his government had boosted expenditure on welfare by 71% when compared with 5 years ago. He added that Hong Kong now has an official poverty line. The outgoing CE also held improvements in air quality resulting from government efforts. But he has regrets about the failure to set up a culture bureau, which he blamed on filibustering at the Legislative Council. The interview also touched on the topic of one country, 2 systems. Leung said it was only normal for problems to arise during its implementation, but the principle and the basic law have never changed. He added that as the local society and economy continue to develop, Hong Kong should take the initiative and adjust accordingly to contribute its part to the country's development. However, some lawmakers did not view Leung's term as CE with the same rose-tinted spectacles. Wong Kwok Kin of the Federation of Trade Unions criticized Leung for not doing enough on labor policies while admitting the CE's housing and poverty alleviation measures were good. But Raymond Chen of People Power believes Leung actually failed to tackle Hong Kong's housing, welfare and labor woes. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
The cost of public healthcare services increased by up to 80% today, although some patients say it hasn't made a difference to waiting times. But Health Chief Ko Wing-man stressed it's too early to judge the impact of the fee hike. Notices were posted at different public hospitals reminding patients of the new fees, which came into effect at midnight. For accident and emergency services, the fee has gone up from $100 to $180 per visit, an 80% hike. An inpatient bed now costs $120 per day. General outpatient treatment is now $5 more expensive at $50 per attendance, while specialist outpatient services now cost $135 for the first visit. Luk Chi-chung, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong West Cluster of Hospitals, said today's services ran smoothly. He believes it'll take a couple more days to gauge the full impact of the fee hike on hospital attendance, a sentiment echoed by the health chief.
Up to this moment, we do not have report of any operational problem arising so far. On the other hand, I think we will need a longer period of time to observe and to monitor the utilization rate of the A&E departments to see whether, especially those non-urgent categories of patients, would change or not.
But some patients complained that the fee hike had not made the slightest difference to waiting times. This woman says patients faced a 4-hour wait for treatment before the fees went up, and they're still waiting that long. She added that when it's an emergency, higher costs are not going to stop you from rushing to the A&E department. This woman complained that it was too expensive, as even private doctors will see you for less than $180. But for this man, $180 was affordable. In light of an increasing number of non-emergency patients using emergency services, the government raised public healthcare charges to deter some of those patients from overloading public emergency wards. It's the first increase since the hospital authority began charging for services in 2002, when the $100 fee was introduced. And fares on the MTR Airport Express also went up today. For Octopus card users, it'll cost you $110 to travel from Hong Kong Station to the airport. Those who buy single journey tickets will now have to pay $115. The MTR Corporation has also introduced summer fare concessions. From now until the end of August, children Octopus card users can ride the Airport Express for free, while senior citizens can travel at half price. It's the first fare increase for the Airport Express since it started running back in 1998.
Turning overseas now, US Navy officials say several bodies have been found in a damaged Aegis destroyer. They're believed to be crew members missing after the USS Fitzgerald and a Philippine-registered container ship collided early yesterday in waters south of Tokyo. And new details are now emerging about the moments leading up to the crash. James Aiken reports.
A day after the crippled destroyer returned to its home port in Japan, U.S. Navy divers have recovered bodies of crew members in the ship's flooded compartments, including sleeping quarters.
We've discontinued the search and rescue. We have found a number of them. I'm not going to go into the number.
The ship's commanding officer and 2 other crew members were airlifted from the vessel and are being treated for injuries. Officials say a watch team was on duty, but most of the rest of the crew was asleep when the ships rammed each other at 2:20 a.m. local time Saturday. The crew of the container ship ACX Crystal alerted the Japanese Coast Guard soon after the collision. One machinery room in the destroyer and 2 berthing areas were severely damaged, but most of the damage is below the waterline. A coin described the dramatic moments after the impact.
The water flow was tremendous, and so there wasn't a lot of time in those spaces that were open to the sea. And as you can see now, the ship is still listing, and so they had to fight the ship to keep it above the surface. So it was traumatic.
Meanwhile, the massive ACX Crystal is now in port in Tokyo. None of its 20-member Filipino crew were injured. As investigators try to figure out what went wrong, they'll be focusing on marine traffic records prior to the crash. They show the container ship made a series of sharp course turns less than an hour before the collision. An official from the Japanese Coast Guard said they are treating the incident as a case of possible professional negligence. Conditions were clear at the time of the collision, though the area is particularly busy with sea traffic. James Aiken, TVB News.
London police have raised to 58 the number of people confirmed or presumed dead in the horrific inferno that engulfed Grenfell Tower on Wednesday. Public anger is growing at the perceived insufficient action being taken by the government. Alan Buckner reports.
Metropolitan Police Commander Stuart Cundy said the number of dead is based on reports from the public and it may rise. He said identification of the victims could take weeks or even longer.
Sadly, we can now formally identify the first victim who lost their life. That is Mohammed Al-Hadjali, who was 23 years, who lived here at Grenfell Tower.
With anger mounting over the government's handling of the blaze, Prime Minister Theresa May met with the survivors yesterday. Weakened by a botched election gamble last week, May has been criticized for her muted response and failure to meet with the survivors immediately after the fire. On Friday, she needed a police escort after protesters surrounded her car following a meeting with victims. Yesterday, she vowed to personally oversee the recovery efforts. A huge crowd of protesters gathered outside 10 Downing Street for a second day yesterday.
She made a mistake not going to visit the residents. There wasn't enough official response. on the scene.
It's absolutely disgraceful. It shows a complete lack of empathy. It's the behaviour of a sociopath, a person who can't connect with the feelings of those people who've suffered. She's never had to suffer.
On Friday, May said the government is making £5 million available as emergency funds for the people affected. And while the survivors have expressed gratitude at the outpouring of support from the community, they're still left with a bleak future.
Because this is the kind of support that we need. People are walking around like bloody zombies. Everything's gone. They've lost their family, lost friends, lost your home, lost their identity. My days, this is just ridiculous.
At Buckingham Palace, Queen Elizabeth observed a minute of silence during a somber 91st birthday celebration. Alan Buckniat, TVB News.
Across the Channel in France, the centrist Republic on the Move party of President Emmanuel Macron is expected to win a huge majority in today's second round of parliamentary elections. Turnout, however, could touch record lows in a sign of voter fatigue after 7 months of rollercoaster campaigning. The startup party is barely more than a year old, and as many as 3/4 of its members elected could be political novices. That will alter the face of the National Assembly that has been led by either the Conservative or Socialist parties since the end of World War II. Macron has vowed to overhaul labour rules, cut tens of thousands of public sector jobs and invest billions in job training and renewable energy. And still ahead on the news tonight. Over 50 people killed in a raging forest fire in central Portugal. Police smash a fraud syndicate that used false documents to apply for credit cards. And a traditional Hawaiian canoe completes a 3-year voyage around the world.
Welcome back. In Portugal, at least 57 people have been killed by a forest fire that remains out of control. More than a dozen of the dead were trapped in their cars as flames swept over a road. The roads in the area have since been closed off. It's one of the deadliest forest fires in Portugal in decades. The European Union has activated its civil protection efforts. France and Spain are each sending several firefighting planes to the region. Authorities say a lack of rain is helping to fuel the blaze. A lightning strike on a tree during a dry storm is believed to have started the fire. A homemade bomb detonated in a women's bathroom has rocked one of the busiest shopping centres in the capital of the South American nation of Colombia. 3 women were killed and 9 others were injured. The Andino shopping mall was packed with people ahead of Father's Day when the blast went off. Police say the device was made with a potent explosive and was placed in a toilet bowl. Security officials are trying to establish who is responsible for the blast. Leaders from the National Liberation Army, the last rebel movement still active in Colombia, deny involvement. Colombia's president has ordered an investigation.
Back in Hong Kong, police have busted a syndicate accused of helping people apply for credit cards with falsified income statements. As Adam Chi reports, officers warn people, especially young adults looking for extra cash, not to take the risk of getting caught up in such schemes.
In an operation yesterday, officers arrested 11 people. They included 2 bank employees and a suspect who is alleged to have helped people obtain credit cards using falsified documents. The applicants, mostly in their 20s, were among those arrested. Officers believe they wanted higher credit limits than their current income would justify. So the syndicate would offer them payslips issued by bogus companies, and the bank staff, probably eager to boost their sales performance, then colluded with them, according to the police. Officers seized 10 credit cards with credit lines ranging from $10,000 to $170,000 each, worth $1 million in total. But since the ring had only become active in April this year, police said no banks had incurred losses in that short period of time. From 2016 up till May this year, the city's lenders lost over $15 million to scams involving falsified documents. The crime, police warned, could land you 14 years in jail. Adam Xu, TVB News.
Well, the Dean of Medicine at the University of Hong Kong has suggested that the incoming administration find common ground with stakeholders in the health sector to help ease a manpower crunch. This follows a government warning that Hong Kong would face a critical shortfall of healthcare professionals by 2030. Here's Adam Xu again.
According to a government-commissioned strategic review on healthcare manpower and professional development, in the worst-case scenario, Hong Kong will be facing a shortfall of almost 1,600 doctors and nearly 2,700 general nurses in 13 years. The city has 2 universities training future medical staff, the University of Hong Kong and the Chinese University of Hong Kong, which jointly carried out the review. Gabriel Leung, the Dean of Medicine at HKU, told TVB that those findings should be taken seriously as they were drawn from extensive surveys. But he questioned the government's assumption that the current levels of service would continue to be the standards.
Currently, if you get referred into a specialist outpatient clinic, you might be facing a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month, 24-month wait. Why did government specify that we should live with the current standard of medical care? Why aren't we looking at 20 years from now? This is what Hong Kong people deserve and this is what Hong Kong people need.
If there are more old people in Hong Kong and people would like to have a better service, do you think that the government has underestimated the labor shortage in the medical sector?
With an expanding and an aging population, you would expect that you would require more healthcare to be delivered. However, with greater technological advances, for example, in hepatitis C, previously is incurable. Nowadays, you can actually cure it with a 2-month course of very expensive therapy. You are now averting a lifetime, potentially 30, 40 years of follow-up, surveillance, laboratory testing, radiological testing, possible complications, surgery, even a liver transplant. One technological advance could have wiped out that volume of healthcare requirement.
Still, Leung said there is no debate about the urgency to relieve a severe shortage of doctors and nurses in the public sector. But he urged the incoming administration to start with easier goals, such as adopting a robust primary care strategy and better motivating staff at public hospitals.
Once we've done those things, hopefully we'll have better common ground to talk about other issues where there is not yet consensus or where people are still sticking to their polar positions.
Adam Xu, TVB News.
And physiotherapist groups have slammed the government for severely underestimating the manpower shortage in their sector. The report of the strategic review estimated that Hong Kong would face a shortfall of 933 physiotherapists by 2030. In a joint statement today, unions noted that the ratio of physiotherapists to patients was at 1 to 2,490, indicating a clear, severe understaffing problem. They urged the government to establish a reasonable manpower ratio and to increase the number of publicly funded university places to meet the demand. OK, Tony, what are you starting off with? Some tennis, is it?
No, not tennis today.
Oh.
We're teeing off with golf.
Oh, golf.
We've also got a big cricket match in London later today, but let's get to the golf. Brian Harman has the lead after the 3rd round of the US Open, but it was his American compatriot Justin Thomas who stole the show with a record performance,
leaving him at 12 under overall. Harman has a 1-shot lead over Thomas, Brooks Koepka and Tommy Fleetwood.
On to football now, and host Russia eased to a 2-0 win over New Zealand in the opening match of the Confederations Cup in St. Petersburg. Midfielder Denis Glushakov got the ball rolling for the hosts in the 31st minute. They
beat anybody.
Finally tonight, a traditional Polynesian voyaging canoe built in the 1970s has returned to Hawaii after a 3-year round-the-world voyage. It was the first ever journey made by such a vessel. Thousands turned out to welcome the double-hulled canoe named Hokulea. The canoe has no modern navigation instrumentation, so crew members relied only on their understanding of nature's cues to sail 74,000 kilometres to 19 countries. The voyage used the same traditional wayfinding that brought the first Polynesians to Hawaii hundreds of years ago. OK, it's time for us to sail out of here, isn't it, Tony?
Yes, sail off into the sunset.
Into the sunset.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching. And good night.
Good night.
20 years after the handover, the universal suffrage enshrined in the Basic Law remains elusive. From that one vote for chief executive that we still don't have, the Pearl Report examines the ups and downs of Hong Kong's democratization. Monday night at 8.
Have you ever looked for a hotel online? Did you notice that there are so many different prices out there for the exact same room? Well, Trivago does the work for you and instantly compares the prices of over 600,000 hotels from over 200 different websites. Instead of searching for hours or spending too much, Trivago makes it easy for you to find the ideal hotel for the best price. Trivago shows
Good evening. It was cloudy with showers and a few thunderstorms today. At 5 p.m, a band of clouds was covering the northern part of the South China Sea and the coast of Guangdong. Today's temperatures ranged from 24.7 to 27.2 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 89 and 97%. Winds were moderate southwesterlies. 11.3 millimetres of rain has been recorded since midnight. The current temperature is 27 degrees Celsius, with the relative humidity standing at 85%. So, Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Cloudy with showers. The showers will be heavy at times with a few thunderstorms at first tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 26 to 29 degrees. The weather will still be unsettled with showers in the following couple of days. Sunny periods in the latter part of this week. Tomorrow's Air Quality Health Index will range from low to moderate. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 3. Now to the latest global weather update. Cloudy in Shanghai, thunderstorms in Taipei, showers in Xiamen. Rain in Guangzhou, thunderstorms in Macau, cloudy in Chengdu. Thunderstorms in Beijing, cloudy in Seoul, rain in Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, showers in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Bright in Kuala Lumpur, thunderstorms in Singapore, showers in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, sunny in Karachi, rain in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, bright in Nairobi. Bright in Brisbane and Melbourne, showers in Sydney, rain in Auckland. Showers in Toronto, rain in New York. Showers in Vancouver, sunny in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Sunny in London, Paris, Amsterdam, Frankfurt and Zurich. And that's the weather. Have a lovely evening.